We've got another program for you tonight, and Sir Timothy, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Martin. It's a pleasure to be here. This is World Improvement Through the Spirit Ministries. We're going to be teaching a little bit on the secrets of the power of God. So that's a good heading to type in there, Secrets of the Power of God. And we have an excellent guest tonight, Brother JT. We've had him on before. He's always interesting to listen to. And we'll start out with Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24. And here we see Jacob got visited by an angel, and actually in one place it says by God, so it's not really clear which it is, whether it's an angel or God, but either way it's pretty powerful visitation. Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24. And 32 verse 24 says, and Jacob was left alone. He sent his whole family away and everything. He's by himself. And then it says that a man wrestled with him until the dawn. So, and then it says, and when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, unless you bless me first. So Jacob was determined he wanted that blessing from God or from this angel. And then he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, the angel said, or the God said, he is capitalized here, so the translator felt it was God. He said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men, and you have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, saying, tell me your name, I pray. And he said, why is it you ask me my name? And he, the angel or God, blessed him there. He, capital H again. So this is put in the Bible as a good thing, because he wound up getting that blessing. He took a hold of that angel that was visiting him and wouldn't let him go, and they wrestled all night long, it says, or at least until daybreak. So it's several hours probably, or maybe all night long. And now this, at first glance, you would think this is very dishonoring to God that Jacob treated this angel this way. And it's important for people to realize that this was put in as a good thing. He wound up getting a blessing in the process of doing this. If it wasn't a good thing, he'd have got a curse instead of a blessing. But he got a blessing, and his blessing was his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, and Israel means Prince of God. And so his blessing, Israel became a mighty nation because of that. And so that's all a lesson for us about when we want to receive a blessing from God, let's say it's healing or whatever God has promised in his word, then it's important, very important for us to have that same tenaciousness, that same determination that Jacob had. That's why this is put down as a good example. Even in the New Testament, there are scriptures that say that Jacob wrestled with an angel, and it was through faith, and that faith accomplished great things. And we're going to look at one scripture along these lines in Matthew chapter 11 verse 12 in a few minutes. We'll look that up. But it's important that people realize that determination is absolutely important in receiving what God has for you. This lesson is called Secrets of the Power of God. And basically I want to state 5 things real plainly. Determination is one of them, but that has to do with believing and acting. There's 5 things: you believe, you say, if you speak in harmony with it. Jesus said in Mark 11:23, you can write this down, 11:23 and 24. He said, have the God kind of faith, or have the faith of God. And then he says, if you have the God kind of faith and you say on this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea, and do not doubt, but believe that what you said shall come to pass, and you shall have whatsoever you said. So you got to believe it's come to pass first, and then you'll have it. So saying, as he says, say, whoever shall say unto this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea, and do not doubt in your heart, but believe that what you said shall come to pass, and you shall have whatsoever you said. So saying, he's mentioned saying 3 times in that passage, and believing only once. But believing is very important, saying is very important. There's basically 5 things: believe it, say it, act in harmony with it, receive it, and tell it. Those are the basic 5 things, the 5 secrets to receiving what you need in life. And people practice these things even when they're not saved or not surrendered to God. And they get results, but not as good. The more surrendered to God you are, the better your results, generally speaking. There's a few exceptions, obviously. Yeah, but we don't need to go into all that. But yeah, a simple illustration that almost everybody has practiced this in their life. And a couple illustrations come to mind. One of them is running a race. Anybody who's ever ran a race, you see yourself running fast. Before you start running, before the pistol gets shot in the air, or before the flag goes down, or whatever it is that signals the start of the race, before the ready, set, go, you see it in your mind. And you believe it. You believe you're running fast. If you're going to win, you got to believe it. And you got to believe it, and you got to see it, and you got to act like it. And that's running, basically, acting like it. When that buzzer goes off, you act like it, and you run. And everybody practices this, and everybody gets results. This is the reason that the 4-minute mile is no longer a challenge. When I was very young, until I was about 12 years old or 10 years old, somewhere in there, nobody had ever beat the 4-minute mile. It was considered impossible. And then finally somebody beat it. In other words, running a mile in 4 minutes. And now it's considered, just to show you how this works, it's considered everybody that's an athlete on the mile should be able to run the 4-minute mile. And that shows you how much this has changed. The believing part of it has changed the whole world, really. It used to be considered impossible. Now it's being done all the time. And that helps people. If you realize that, then you realize that faith is more than just agreeing with your mind. You have to actually picture it and believe it before it happens, and then you'll see it. And that's the basics or the mechanics of faith. And that's what Jacob was doing when he wrestled with this angel. He was believing he was going to get this blessing, this extra blessing. He'd already gotten 1 or 2 blessings from God already. But this is an extra blessing that he wanted, and that was put down as a good thing because he did get that blessing. If you read that carefully, you see the last part of verse 29. It says that angel or God, he blessed him there. He, capital letters, he blessed him, Jacob. That angel or God blessed Jacob there, and Jacob named the name of the place Peniel. Verse 30 he says, "For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." So he actually wrestled, he thought, with God, and maybe he did wrestle with God. God can come in the flesh. Jesus came in the flesh, the Son of God. God the Father it says he came to Abraham in the flesh. And so God can make himself a body. I don't know that, some people get upset with all this, but God can do whatever he wants to do, basically. And but he can't break his own word, and he can't lie. And he has given his word on a few things, and he doesn't break those things, and that's the reason that different things are going on. But anyway, back to the lesson. Even the lost get some results on this type of thing, and so it is like a law of nature. The saying, start with believing and saying and acting and receiving and telling. We believe it. We say it, we act like it. When you receive it, that means you're actually receiving the winning. I've been in situations where you get all the way up to receiving and you're not sure you're worthy. And then you let it go. You let it slip through your fingers. And that's not what God wants either. So receiving is important. And then telling it to others, the victory you had, the miracle you had, the healing you had, that's important also. I want to relate an experience that kind of helps us understand a little bit. One time I was working with fiberglass insulation, and I got a little piece in my eye of glass. If you work with fiberglass, there's glass in that, and it's nasty stuff. And I got a piece in my eye, and I knew Jesus was my healer. I knew God was my healer. And so I just declared by his stripes I'm healed, and I just kept working. And that night I couldn't sleep. It was very, very painful. The large piece of glass. And so I went to the mirror and looked into the mirror, looking very carefully, trying to figure out where this was and trying to get it out. I spent probably 2 or 3 hours, couldn't find it, couldn't get it out. Tried to go back to sleep. I didn't sleep all that night. Got up the next day, worked all day with that thing in my eye. And I kept believing and claiming I was healed. And I stayed in faith. I was believing it. And the next day, I didn't sleep again all that night. I probably spent 2 or 3 or 4 more hours in front of the mirror trying to get it out. And so the second night, no sleep. The third morning, about 6 in the morning, I said, well, I'm doing something wrong. I'm going to have to change. You know, if we don't succeed, it's not God's failing, it's ours. So I was believing it with everything I had, and I was saying it, and I was acting like it. But there was something I was doing wrong, so I tried something else. And what I did is I sat there in prayer. I sat there in prayer and meditation, and I just kept thanking God that I was healed. And while I was doing that, about 10 minutes into that, a presence of the Lord came upon me. Anointing is what it is. It's the presence of the Lord. You feel like He's there with you. He is. And that anointing came on my body, and it came down to my left arm, and into my left hand, and into my little finger. And before I even knew what I was doing, I reached up and snatched that thing, and there it was right at the end of my finger. And you know, that shows basically that God, if you can believe it, you can receive it. And I didn't. It wasn't me, because I spent 5 hours at least in front of the mirror trying to get that out. And so obviously, just to be able to reach up and take that out, a piece of glass right at the end of my fingernail that I'd tried for 2 days to get out of there, that shows that it was something more than me. But it shows you also that if you stay in faith and seek God, God will be your solution every time. I apologize, I'm not looking at the screen very well. I'm looking over here to see what everybody else is doing. Anyway, we've got Brother Martin on here, and he's enjoying a cup of something, and we also got Brother JT on hold. And we're going to keep it a little shorter tonight than usual. We got JT. He's going to have a lot of good things to say. The only other thing I wanted to speak about is the difference between heart faith and head faith. People agree with their mind all the time when you teach this stuff. People say, oh yeah, that makes sense, that's true, I agree with it, so it should work for me. That's what they think, because they agree with their mind. And that's not what Jesus said in Mark 11:23. He said, if you believe with your heart, without a doubt in your heart. And so we've got to get, the mind's good. It's good to agree with your mind, but you got to keep feeding your mind until your heart is able to start getting to the right belief state. This heart is what science calls subconscious mind. And the more you feed whatever goes through your regular mind, the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive, the more your heart will start responding and believing those kind of things. And if you feed your mind junk, then that's going to pollute your heart, and your heart's not going to believe very well. You're not going to have you're not going to have strong faith. You're not going to see miracles. So that's why it's important to watch what you feed your mind. You can change your life by changing what you feed your mind, and you can make your life better by feeding your mind good, healthy, clean, pure, powerful, positive things. And I think that concludes our lesson for today.